The question we are trying to answer today is why in Jamaica our annual saving rate is so low? Why are we not able to work enough money to cover our expenses?
So we found that about, on average, 4% of salaries are left over for savings. And that has further implications for, other types of savings like pensions, which is why our pension enrollment is so low. And just general savings rates in the Jamaican economy have historically been low. They have not tended to pass, say, 11 to 15% historically. That's the aggregate. So meaning as a proportion of the whole country's savings rate, not individual persons and their savings. We find that savings rates are generally low. And the reason is clear just from that statistic. It's that for many people, expenses often track very closely to their income or their revenue, or in some cases, they exceed it. So what you are seeing now is just the average for everybody. And you don't begin to consider now the fact that for many persons, even covering basic expenses, their incomes are not sufficient to cover that level of just basic expenditure.
So, low income is the reason why we have a low saving rate. So, the question is, how do we solve that low income problem?
In trying to get GDP to be at a higher level. So we are still very labor dependent, but we're also constrained by size. So that means that each and every single person who is in the labor force of 1.5 million, 1.3 to 1.5 million must be so highly skilled that they are indispensable, meaning that you cannot do without them. You would be so far worse off if you got rid of them, if they stopped working, right? So it means that each person must be at such a significantly skilled level that you cannot do without them at all.
So, but that's kind of weird here now in Jamaica because we have a lot of industries. So you have the micro, the small, and the medium enterprises, and most of these jobs they aren't highly technical, highly skilled. They're jobs that basically can be done by most people. So is it that being that we have a abundance of these jobs that maybe that is why our GDP may be low, or that maybe salaries may be low because the skills being put on the table aren't really of high value for these enterprises. They generally want labor and not necessarily highly skilled or highly intellectual tasks to be done.
Well, that is part of the reason, apart from the fact that in many other instances, persons tend to justify paying low wages because of the perception of low skills. And of course, there is no greater evidence of that than in the tourism sector and the other sectors like the business processing outsourcing sector. So, we know anecdotally that persons who are coming to Jamaica want certain assurances that labor will be cheap. So, we can be frank about it. Labor will be cheap in certain sectors, and therefore it means that we can pay you less because it's more competitive relative to now setting up shop elsewhere. And that is why the structure of the economy itself, meaning the industries that we pay attention to, needs to be radically augmented. So even tourism itself can be transformed and become higher skill. So it's not always the fact that you need to get new industries. You can build on what is there, but it needs to be at a much higher level. So as we currently perceive or conceive tourism to be, for example, or say, any other industry. So it doesn't have to be tourism. It can be something else.
So, what they are saying is that our saving rate is low because of low income. And to solve the low income problem, each and every single person in the labor force of 1.3 to 1.5 million must be highly skilled that they are irreplaceable. I disagree The problem is not low income or salaries. The problem is inflation. Now, if the employers pay us more, the price of goods and services are going to go up because labor is the primary commodity for goods and services. So it is not how much you are paid, it is the value of what you are paid. So what am I saying? If the currency you receive from your employer is losing value, you are not going to be able to save anything or buy a house or see anything of value come from your labor. So it doesn't matter if you are highly skilled to where you are irreplaceable. The problem is not the salary you get for your labor. It is the currency you get paid in. Now, because we are in an inflationary economy, everybody have to invest or start some sort of business, and that is why a house is no longer for living. It is an investment, which is what is driving up the prices and demand for housing, because people are buying housing for investment. Now, the main purpose of AI is not to make a video look good or cut production. The main purpose of AI is to increase production to a level of mass production. So everybody in the world have to increase their productivity to the level of mass production to outrun inflation.